The thing that I struggle with the most when I meet Palestinians is this instinct, for better or worse, or the way we've been conditioned to question each other and
Yeah.
challenge each other. And almost it's as if we've inherited or internalized this inability or this idea that we don't have a right to belong, or that, this struggle with belonging. We've internalized it to the point, and this happens in a lot of communities, but in my experience, it becomes, in Taminwain, like when I went to certain parts of
Yeah.
Palestine, there was an attitude wherein people wanted to deny me my right to identify as Palestinian in any capacity based on the sheer fact that my experience was different than their experience, by virtue of the fact that I also was born outside and I have all the privileges that come, unfortunately or fortunately, with not being born in Palestine. And that is something that time and time again throughout my life is something that I think we don't even intend to do. We're not necessarily aware that we're doing it. It's again another consequence of being, detached from your home. And even though I didn't leave as a refugee, that, as we said earlier, being inherited, it's something that I really hope we can overcome. For as much as I will never be able to fully understand fully what it's like to grow up in Al Khalil or in Bethlehem or even in Jaffa or in Tel Aviv as a Palestinian, Palestinians there will never be able to fully comprehend what it's like for someone who grows up outside as the child of Palestinian refugees. And there's so many different identities, and we've been so divided, and this idea of divide and conquer is such an effective way of robbing us of the thing that other communities and people and identities can take maybe for granted, because they don't have this, kind of severing of ties. And yeah, it's sorry, I didn't mean to. I just
No, it's a very real problem, and I
I'm
understand.
sure you. I mean, I'm even more curious. Like, I wish. How does that play out? It does play out in your life there, no?
Because I grew up in Palestine. I left when I was 18 and I lived abroad. So I understood a bit of the diaspora exile experience, but it's not my own. But I was led into it to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And a real problem, because there's a hierarchy of what it means to be Palestinian. It's almost a monopoly of how much did I struggle and suffer, therefore I am
Right.
more than. And
And that is. Go on.
it's very problematic because again, fragmentation divided Palestinian communities, and each community, depending on their geographic location, has developed its own identity. And because we're also geographically disconnected, there's no form of bridging those different identities. And so even within being Palestinian, you can become the other. And when we are a people, there's 13 million of us that are
Yeah.
struggling for freedom, justice, and equality and rights. We don't have the privilege of being exclusive, right?
Right.
We need all of us. We need all of us together. And there needs to be an understanding that my Palestinianness can be different than yours, but they're equal.
When we are Palestinians in recognition and we are facing each other, the question should be not where are you from? Okay, ask that question, but let's move quickly to where are we? Where are you and I? Not
Yeah.
just physically, geographically, and where do we want to go? Not where
100.
are you from? Where do we want to go?
Yeah.
Because it's easy, and I admit that I have the luxury, being outside, of not having to think about the current situation in Palestine as much as people there do. And that pains me in a way that other people won't be able to understand, just by nature of me being empathetic. But what pains me more than that is the lack of attention on this idea of where are we going? Where do we want to go? How do we want to get there? How can you help me get to where I want to go? Rather than how can I make myself feel better about the trauma I've endured, whether I'm outside or inside, by judging your Palestinianness. Because that is at the core of divide and conquer. And
It is.
that work does itself for them, those who seek to divide and oppress us, both from there. And I wish I could say, and I'm not trying to be politically controversial, but I wish I could say that it's just one side that are trying to divide us. There are people within the Palestinian community that, whether consciously or not, are dividing us. And that's what pains me.